Hey guys, welcome to Smooth's Workshop. Terry here. We're on build video number 8 of my Yamaha RZ250 two-stroke flying machine. Brum brum brum, way! We're at the build stages now. Last video I was doing pin washes to highlight some parts. Now we're going to start sticking them all together. So, we have previously put the cylinder heads together. And we're going to put the carburetors and a couple other parts on them. Now what I have just done is I've just scraped back with my craft knife in that area there, and I'm just going to do the same on the carburetors because they've had a lacquer coat on, and it's just to give it a little bit of adhesion. Now this is the only thing with detail painting all your parts first, is to get a good bond you've got to scrape some of the paint off some of the parts. So anyway, that's two carburetors. Now the left one has a choke button on it, and it goes on this side, and I'm just going to see whether it's going to be worthwhile me using the capillary action glue, and I think I will. The other thing I haven't decided yet, looking at the carb, is whether we will see when the engine is in place the carburetor where it goes round, there is no silver on the back of it, no aluminium colour on the rear of the part, and I don't know if we'll see that when it goes round for that side. If it is obvious, I will detail paint that in later. So I've just put some glue on that and seeing how that's going to sit, and get the other one in. Do the same with it on this side. I'm not used to using the Tamiya extra thin. Normally I would use the Goopy, but I'm going to give it a wee try just because it glues quicker, and see how that goes. Now for me, having the carbs like that, how are you supposed to do the oil pin wash and paint them and detail them up? You can do it, but that's just the way I prefer to do it. So, two carburetors in place. Next it asks, God, what am I doing? Asks us to put this pipe on. I've already done that earlier. It asks us to put the two spark plugs in. Now, the spark plugs, because I've painted them all the way down, I'm going to scrape just a little bit back of the white. Let's see if you can see this, just a little bit. Because the glue sticks better to the plastic than it does to the paint. So just a tiny wee bit of scrapage back on the bottom of the plugs will ensure the glue gets a good grip. Don't know if you can pick that up on camera. Hopefully you can. So I'm just going to do this with both of them. And I'm just basically taking the glue, it's a tiny little part, so taking the glue off the bottom of that spark plug, the paint off the bottom of that spark plug, and a little bit of the paint off the bottom of this one. I'm just guessing roughly how much to take out, because I've had them dry fitted before. But I will be using Goopy on this, I think, because otherwise the white paint might run into the black paint on the cylinder head if I use the hot glue, which is the thin stuff. I don't want that. So that's them two done. Right, I'll get my Goopy stuff out and just down into the holes. I won't need a lot, I'll only need a tiny wee dab. One dab, two dabs if I got any in there. Okay, that's glue in there. And the spark plugs are both face and rearwards, so I shall just get them roughly in place, like as so, and then with my tweezers I will straighten them up into the position they're going to go. Give them a wee squeeze down. There's that one. And this one. And hopefully the paint won't muck up too much, but I can touch them up if need be. So I'm just making sure they're both square with the cylinder heads. Okay, so that's 2 carbs on, 2 spark plugs in. So while they're drying, it tells us to put the main side casings on. So what I generally do here is, because of the way I've sprayed this, I've sprayed down the way, I shouldn't have to clean up these faces. Okay, and the same with this one. Okay, I don't have to clean that mating face, but I will have to clean these up a little bit because I've been spraying lacquer over them. Now I'm only really going to concentrate around where the locating tabs are and just make sure there's a bit of paint scraped back, which I did earlier, but it has had a coat of lacquer. Let's see if I adjust this camera around a bit, just so that we've got some for the glue to bite into. So casing number 1 is this one, and it goes on this side like so. So what I will do is just with the goopy glue I'll get in and around this pin and this pin, and just a tiny little doddle along the edges where I know the part's going to go. On with the left hand casing, like you can see so. Just give it a little squeeze into place. Like I was saying before, trying to detail paint and get that perfect line between the two parts, building it all in one piece is difficult to do, I think, which is why I paint them all separately, and obviously it lets me do the oil pin wash and everything like that. Again on this side, okay, that's going like that. With my gloopy around the pins. Just a tiny wee bit there, a wee bit there, like that. Now, apologies for the delay in this actual build video. I have had a horribly swollen face because I've got a abscess in my mouth. That's a horrible bloody thing. Right, so that's that bit like that. So then it tells you to glue the cylinder heads onto here. Now, what I've done previously is I've scraped back an area there and an area there and on the inside of the other side, and all I'm going to do is take my goopy glue, and hopefully you'll see I'm going to tip the camera down a bit. Right. It hooks in at the back, so I'm not worried about gluing that, but I'm going to glue on the inside edges of this, and just a tiny little trickle around there. So when it squashes together, it's not going to come out onto the paint. So it hooks in at the back. See on both sides, and then in. And just give it a little squeezy into place. I forgot to say I'd also scraped back on the exhausts on this earlier on. Now, right, so this is our little engine, starting to look like a little engine, which is very nice. It then tells you to put 4 hoses on. Now, I don't know if the spark plugs in that will be dry enough yet, but we shall try it. So there's the engine. Right, the vinyl hose that it gives you, it tells you to cut 4 pieces each 2.5 centimeters long, and handily enough, it actually gives you, and a lot of the Tamiya instructions do this, it gives you a little rule up the side. They are accurate, so there's one marked at 2.5, so you can just lay it down. Excuse me. I think I've got a bit more in an infection going on here. I've got a bit of a man cold as well. So I'll hold that on the end of the 0, take that up to the 2.5 and just chop it. Now, they cheat in this because you'd think the spark plugs would go to coils and the throttle cables on the carbs would go somewhere. They don't, they actually just have them tucked up behind the tank, and they don't go anywhere. So it's a bit of a cheat. But I suppose it looks like cables. And I've done a couple of bikes where you cut all these cables to length and you fit them, and you can't even see them when the bike's together. But it's the old adage, you know it's there. So yeah, it just wants 4 of these. There's 3 and one more. And I'm not cutting any extra or anything because I've seen the pictures how they go together later on. Right. Now, normally if these were getting routed around about the bike, I would glue them in place to the pieces that they're going on. But sometimes you can get away with just wiggling them on. So I'm going to give them a try, just wiggling them. So I've got 1 on each carburetor to go. That's that one wiggled in. As I say, I would probably normally wait till they were a bit drier before I attempted this. But we'll see how we go. So that's 2 cables on the carburetors. Spark plugs might be a bit of a dodgy one, but they seem to have smaller pins on them, so we shall see. We might need to do some gluage on these. Yeah, they just fall on, so they're not going to stay on. So what I typically do is, with the goopy glue, just on the end of the wee pipe that's going on, stick a tiny bit of glue on it, then offer it up into place, and just let that sit. Same with the other one. I deliberately didn't paint the end of the spark plug suppressor caps because I knew they would need to get glued into place. So that's another one on. Oh. That's the only thing with that precision glue, you've got to remember to keep putting the cap on it or it dries out and then it doesn't come up. Right, so we have, let's take that little excess bit of glue off, my cotton bud. We have the 2 spark plug ones on, and we have the 2 carburetor ones on. Okay, now next it's telling us this is all to go into the frame. Ho ho ho, exciting stuff. I've lacquered the frame. When you handle black it's really bad for fingerprints, and I have scraped off the mating faces there, where the meet there, where the meet there, and where the meet at the back. So it also tells you to put in the rear mudguard, but I know I can put this in afterwards. So just looking at this, and with the engine, it is saying that that part goes into the airbox and this little lug goes in at the front. So let us see if this is so. So that bit goes up in there and that bit goes in there. So it says in the diagram. Will it work? These things are sent to try us. Right, it's not quite going in that hole. So I will get my files, which should be somewhere about here. Ah, no, I've put them in a drawer. It wasn't that drawer. And it wasn't that drawer. But it was one of these drawers. In here. That's not very well organised, Terry. Right, and I'm going to look for my little round one. I need to think of a better solution than that. Right, I'm going to take my little round one, and all I'm going to do is open up this hole so that it will accept. Now I would have thought that would have been the perfect size, but it's not. File's not quite getting into it. Sorry, glue fumes are catching me. There's a little lug on that bit. And that's slightly out of line on that side as well. A little bit of trimmage. Let's see if it'll go this time. If it's going to be that tight a fit, I'll no need to glue it. That'll be one good thing. Right, so it's in on that side with a little bit of alteration. That just sits. Is it just sitting in there? Ah, right, okay, that's quite a neat fit, that. Okay, that's in that side. And that's in at that side. Right, I'm going through the same process again for the other side. So the engine one is going in. Right, good, I won't have to glue that. Right, so because I can touch this up, I'm going to go in with the extra thin, and I'm going to, once I'm in there, some in there, some in there, squeeze it together. And gluing it from the inside of the yoke, let the capillary action do its stuff, and hopefully it won't take the paint too much, but being a hot glue it can. You're not going to see a lot of this anyway, so I'm just carefully watching not to get any glue in my fingers, giving that a wee squeeze. This is where you get fingerprints all over your lovely clean frame, and any parts I need to touch up I will touch up later. Okay, that seems to have gripped. I'm not going to glue it at the engine. The next piece to glue together is in there. That side. Again, that's all hidden under a tank, so that's not a biggie. Give that a wee squeeze together, and we've got the back bit to, hopefully you're catching all this on camera. We've got this back bit to go together, and again I'm going to use the hot action glue again, because it sets quicker, and if there is a mess I can touch it up afterwards. Okay, that's looking good. Now the next bit it needs glued. There's two bits on the frame, there's one down there. And there's one here. A little bit of squeezage, gentle squeezage. This is why I'm glad I'm lacquered. I really did take the time and lacquer the frame. They are a nightmare for fingerprints on gloss black. So hopefully this will just set for a wee minute or two. Without any major issues. It doesn't look too bad. It might need a wee touch up there with the black. And the same there. That's what we've got so far. We've got a engine in the frame. There's going to be a tiny little bit of touch up required, which is not uncommon when you're doing it this method. Now that's all still drying. Now the rear mudguard, I'm going to have to twist this in like so. And it goes under. I'm hoping I can do it this way, and I can. And it sits on two wee indentations at the back. Just in there like so. And I'm going to use this again, partly because it's a hot glue, it will go through that paint, and it's in an area that's not going to be seen. I'm not going to panic about that. It's in. It's sitting in the right place. So now we have frame, engine in, rear mudguard on. and I'm going to let that set for a bit before ramming through a lot of other parts. Now, I'm just checking all this. That's got a good grip. That's got a good grip. That's got a good grip there. It's going to need a tiny wee touch up there. A tiny wee touch up there. But I didn't need to glue the engine in. So that's a bonus. Now, these cables, I believe, that's a spark plug one, that's a spark plug one. Where do they go? I'm pretty sure that they all just tuck up inside. Right, I'll worry about that a bit later on. But I'm pretty sure when the tank and that goes on top of there, you don't actually see where the cables go. So that's that bit. Right, it tells you to take the back wheel, put the tyre on, which I've done, and insert this brake drum, which I've done. So that's that bit done. So we've done all of this. Right, we're going on to rear suspension going together now. So that should be pretty straightforward. So, got the two halves. I've detail painted as much as I can with the spring and everything, and the wee adjuster at the back. So we've got two halves here, and as well as the two halves, let's get you down on there, as well as the two halves, we have to put the chain in as well. So that basically is going in like so, because it sits on the inside of that part. I'll just check that fits before it all goes together. Because you're adding paint and stuff to these, they don't always fit first time, and you sometimes have to do a little bit of fettling, I call it. Oh, there it goes, that clicks in there, and I'm pretty sure this chain guard clicks in there, like so. So what I will just do there is I'll put a wee dab of glue, I don't know if you can see this, from behind, just where the sprocket meets. I'll let that set for a wee minute before I do anything else. Right, and I've scraped the paint off this part and that part. These just go together like so. Now, what way am I going to do these? Let me see. I think I will go with, I'll put some of this on it to start with, because I know the spring's going to need a bit of touch up anyway. Stick that in there, and this together up here. I'm just going to quickly run it up the seam. And again, if I need to touch it up, I'll touch it up. But it was far easier doing it in two halves than it was doing it any other way. a wee bit of touch up to do on these springs, but I'm not too worried about it. Actually, they don't tell you to paint those springs at all. They're probably pretty well hidden, but I thought it would add a bit of realism. You can tell it's a hot glue because you're getting wee bits of paint coming off the tip of that. So that's together, that's together, that's all together. It's not looking too bad actually. Right, so that is the rear swing arm. So next it tells us to put the rear wheel in to the rear swing arm. Okay, so the rear wheel is here. How are we doing for time? Half an hour. The rear wheel is here and it's wanting it to go that way. So basically, oh, there's a wee slot at that side. You need to just spread it slightly, so give me a wee second. Right, okay. Sitting like that. Then we get one of the big screws, which were all the same length, and drop it through, like so. And then get my screwdriver. Excuse me. And just gently screw it together. Enough so it's not wobbling everywhere, but not too much that the wheel can't turn, so I need to back that off just a little touch. Okay, so we've got the wheel turning. Oh. Right, this next little piece goes into the swing arm there, or it's supposed to. You will go in, you little devil. Right, where's my wee round doofry? I'll just take a wee touch out of that with a round file. Excuse me. Oh, I think I'm coming down with a lurgy. Okay, that lets that pop in, and then I will just put a wee dab of this on from the back, and that will grab that. So now we have a wheel that turns, and I'll just back that off just a tiny bit more. Okay, so we now have a back wheel which turns, and the drum link rod's connected up, the chain and sprockets on the other side, and as you can see there, the other bit of the screw comes through there. I don't like how they leave it with a screw, but that's the way it is. So that's the rear suspension built up. Now it's now asking us, this is where it speeds on a bit, to insert all this into the frame. Ooh. With another big screw. Ooh. What fun. So it tells us that this rear spring clips up on top of this part, on the hoop, on that. I don't know, I'll just shift the camera. Not got the camera in a very good position today, Terry. Yeah, so that's going to come up and hoop up. The chain is going to slide on the side of the engine casing. And we have to get this sitting in between. Right, what one is it? Which one is it? Oh! there isn't a screw that goes through that. Alright, okay, so we don't need a screw. There's two lugs on the casing, so basically that goes in like that, and then we have to spread the frame. That's a bit stupid. Spread the frame to get that to sit in there. Okay, who thought of that one, Tamiya? Not the smartest of moves. Normally it's a screw that goes through there, so that's what made me go, That you have to spread the frame, so that was a bit of a nuisance. Right, and all the rest of it still together. Right, now, although you can see that spring in that there now, that I've detailed up, once the side panel's on, you're not going to see it. So that's maybe why they don't tell you to detail paint it. So that's that bit. Now it also tells you just make sure that's not really stuck together very well. Because the suspension doesn't work in this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause for a minute because I'm going to need to hold this together. It's not wanting to glue. So I'm going to pause for a minute. We're 36 minutes into the video, but we're getting there. And I'll be back shortly. Bye. Hi, welcome back. Smooth Workshop. Terry here. Right. Whilst I was waiting for a few bits to dry, I touched up the springs. And I touched up the little bar in between. And fitted the centre stand. Now to fit the centre stand, now I'm just thinking this engine's a wee bit wobbly, but it's alright. It tells you to spread the frame after gluing it together, which was a bit of a pain, to fit the centre stand and to get the rear swing arm in, and then you have to also put in this little brake link rod. So that's all that done. I've touched up a few wee bits there with the black gloss. Right, next it tells you to put the exhausts on. Okay. And this is when it becomes evident that there's a big gap in the engine block which shouldn't be there. Right, so it goes in at this side and then hooks in at the frame. CFE. So that's it hooked in at the frame there. So I'm going to, what glue will I use? Right, I'm going to use the capillary stuff up on the top, the extra thin. And let that catch. And then I'm going to flip it over. And from the back, I'm going to catch the little tab that comes through the frame, because that's, you don't see that bit. Okay, and I'll just hold that and let that dry. Give it a wee squish. Okay, and then I've got the one that goes on the other side, which also has a wee bar for the centre stand. So it goes on there, and round the other side of the frame. So again, I'm going to use the capillary up at the top, glue to get down in where I need it. I'm just going to give this a wee bit of an assistance, a wee pair of tweezers, like so. That one's sitting alright. Is it still in at the frame? It is. And I can just get into that one with a wee dab of glue. So that's both exhausties on. It then tells us to put the radiator on the front. So I'm going to use this glue. I've got 3 parts to glue it to. I have to glue it to this nodule here. 4 parts actually. So a nodule here, a nodule there, top radiator hose, bottom radiator hose, and I'm pretty sure it also catches in on there and there. Quickly get my cap back in, and it should, yeah it does. Okay, so it just slots in nodule, 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 and on. I'll just hold that roughly in position. Like so. It's trying not to get too many fingerprints on this frame, which is really quite hard. So I'm just going to hold that for a wee minute, like that. Both exhausts are still in. Yep. And the centre stand comes up and hits against that one. Right, okay. Right, so that's that section done. What's the next one? As I say, the way I build it, it takes a bit longer to get where you want to go, rather than just bunging it all together and then painting it when it's all together, but this is just the way I prefer to do it. I'm just checking those exhausts. They appear to be okay. Right, so I can let that set. So there we go, we have the radiator on and both exhausts. And you can actually pick up that detail in the pin wash underneath. So that's looking quite good. Right, it's then telling us to go into the front forks. Now we built these up already. It's asking for the front wheel. Now the only thing I can't put in this just now is a mudguard, because we are still painting that, but just for effect I'm just going to put the screw back in this, because the mudguard can be added later, because I'll just spread the forks a little bit and then they will go. And because we've already pre-threaded this, it should all just go in nice and easy. Now I'm not 100% happy with the chrome paint that I did in the forks. I did brush paint it and I made the error of, I've sprayed the bottom half, which looks nice. I taped it and it roughed it up a bit. So anyway, what are we looking for here? There is another cable here which it doesn't really explain where it goes. I'm just going to have a look at the instructions, because it doesn't tell me to put a cable on anything else, although earlier back it did mention a longer cable and I would have thought that would have been the clutch one. That doesn't tell you to add anything there. Attach that, attach that. That's all in, that's all on. Position and glue and then amend any twist of the forks. So all that's basically asking is for a piece of tubing 5.5 centimeters long to go on the bottom of the rev counter before fitting the rev counter to the fork. And it doesn't show you where that cable goes at all. It hides under the tank along with the other ones. That's not very good. Right, okay, we'll go with that. So, just set this aside just now while it's drying. So I will need the speedo binnacle, which I have all the decals and everything in. Okay. And I'll need my vinyl tubing again. I have to cut a piece 5.5 centimeters long. So and it's to give the illusion that the speedo is connected, the rev counter is connected to the engine, but in fact it just goes under the tank and doesn't go to anything at all, which is a bit alright. Okay, so it's telling me on the right hand one this is the one that I want to fit, so I'm going to glue that, especially when it starts stucking through frames. So again, a wee dab of glue on the inside, and that's going to curve down, so that's going on this side, and I'll just let that set for a wee minute. Right, now it's telling us to put the position and glue and then amend the twist of the forks. Well, we've done all that already, so we need the other screw that goes down through the forks and to fit it onto the bike. So here is the front forks, here is the screw. Make sure it fits around the frame, which does. A wee bit of wiggle. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Down through the top. Into the frame. Just make sure it's going into the bottom as well. And give it a wee tighten up. And hopefully that's going right through. Can you see this on camera? Yeah. So it's a bit of a long screw for what we're doing, but right, so that's too tight. So I'll back it off a bit. It's just a bit tight because of the paint. So there we go. The front forks is on. Hey, starts to look like a motorbike. Right. It's then telling us to put the speedo binnacle on and route the cable. Just orientate it back. Right. Put the speedo binnacle on and route the cable through the back of the headlight, through the back of the forks. Like this, and that's also going to go up the back of the tank, but this all just slots over here. So let's see if we can get all this to slot on. Right, that's it slotted on. That's going to get hidden up behind the tank. Oh, what's fun, another cable hidden behind the tank. Typical Tamiya though, it's the illusion of something doing something when it's not actually doing it, and they're quite good for that, Tamiya. Right, is this glued on? Okay. fix the speedo binnacle in, I'm going to, what way will I do it? I'm going to use ultra thin from underneath. Just dab it in a couple of places. I'm probably going to have to redress this cable because in typical fashion the cable's not wanting to sit the way I wanted it to go. So I will re-glue that. I will re-glue that and give it more time to set. Now this is probably about as far as we're going to get just now, because I'm going to need to let that set, and I still have the headlight to fit, but it will be getting fitted with PVA. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to fit the headlight. I'm going to pass that cable through and PVA the headlight on, and just make sure the speedo's all sitting square and everything like that before we go into the next bit. Okay, so I'll be back in 5, but I've got a bit of fiddle waiting on things drying, the wee cable drying and things like that. Then after that I've got to put the headlight together, and I'll be doing that with PVAs. I might as well do that while that's drying. Right, that dry there. Okay, there is the headlight main part and the chrome bezel, and there's a clear part. Excuse me, clear part here. Oh, I've got myself new snips, Tamiya ones. Oh, it's the first time using them, so let's see how this. Oh wow, they don't have cut nice. Other ones were cutting, but these just cut beautifully. Oh, there's not going to be much clean up on that at all. I'll just take one of my UMP buffy sticks and just buff this up. Just to take a tiny wee bit of knob on it. Maybe three wee knobs on it, just where I've taken it from the sprue, nothing major. Just take the rest of that off. Oh, itchy eyes now. Clean it up and then give it a wee buff. Oh, again, I was about destroying one of my sanders. I've got myself some new ones. These I'm getting some heavy use. There must have been a wee raggy bit on it. Anyway, the glue I'm going to be using on it is a microcrystal clear, and I'll just get some fresh stuff. Now, I haven't actually used this yet, but it's kind of solid already. That's weird stuff. You can make canopies and everything out of this thing. I'll just get myself a bit of kitchen roll. Right, now I'll be using the same stuff to fit this in. But to put the headlight together, and it goes this way up, and nobody's answering the phone, and there's a wee notch out in the bottom of this, so that's going to sit in there like that. So all I'm going to do is get some of this glue, and I'm going to run it round, I can see so. It dries clear. Don't want to use super glue or anything like that. I don't want to use the other glue because it'll just make a big mess. So when I squeeze that in and together, I'll get a wee lip all the way around. In you go. You're being naughty. There we go, that's it in. I've just got a cotton bud and go around the outside of it, because it's PVA based, taking off any excess. And let that set basically. And I'll give it a wee clean in here with the cotton bud. And the glass goes on the top, and it's got a little notch out the bottom for how it sits. And it sits like and so. Come out, okay. So I'm just going to get a wee drop of this stuff again, and just where the glass goes in, a couple of wee daubs here and there to hold the glass in. That way I don't need to scrape any chrome back, and I'm not going to have any big messes on my glass, because this stuff eventually dries clear, and I'm eventually going to fit this onto the bike using the same stuff. So right, where's the little notch? Little notch goes to the bottom. Such a fiddle. There it is, down the bottom. Squeeze it into place. Little bit of PVA comes out round about it. Wet the cotton bud. Oh, you will stay in place, you devil. I'm just going to go around the outside and take off any excess. Hopefully this stays in place. I think I've got it in now. And the theory being that it'll all dry clear for the headlight. And then once that wee cable's dry, I'll PVA that in place as well with a microcrystal clear, because I'm not wanting to mark all the paintwork that I've got on the back of the light. So that's it for now. Yeah, because a lot of the rest of it is body panels and stuff like that, and we've still to spray all them, but we're nearly done. So yeah, that's how the bike's looking. So next stage will be getting the body panels done, so we can get on to the next stage of the build. But I'll add the headlight in and tuck this back. Could put the handlebars on just now, but it does say to put the tank and that on first, so that's it. So the next one, basically, I need to get all the tank and the mudguard and everything painted, and then we can carry on with the rest of the build. So until then, see you later, bye.